Hello everyone, this is Michael with Christopher Street Tours. On today's episode of Queer History, we are going to be talking about the history of the word queer. Since it is our first episode and we are calling this series Queer History, I think it's important to understand the meaning of the word, the context, and where it comes from. The first thing I'd like to say is that queer, just like every other identity, is something that is uniquely personal to each individual person. It can mean many different things to many different people. But generally speaking, the word queer can be used as an umbrella term to include anybody within the LGBTQ+ community. By the late 19th century, the word queer had gained a connotation of sexual deviance, specifically towards feminine men, masculine women, or anyone that was gender nonconforming. It's said that the first example of the word queer used as a negative slur was written in 1894 by a man named John Douglas. Apparently, Douglas's son was in a gay relationship with Oscar Wilde, the well-known poet. In order to protect the family name, Douglas launched a full court case against Oscar Wilde, looking to persecute and defame him. He uses the phrase snob queers as a way to define gay men. The media picked up on the negative connotation of the word, and it continued throughout the rest of the century. But let's back up. Before queer was reclaimed, the most commonly used word was homosexual, or meaning of the same sex. This term dates back as early as the mid-1800s, derived from the Greek prefix homo, meaning of the same, and the Latin root sex, meaning sex. In the early 1950s, there was a notion to change the word due to the medical and clinical connotations of diagnosing homosexuality as a mental illness. Around the same time, there was a new movement on the rise to fight discrimination against the LGBTQ community. Because society still thought of people in the community as sexual deviants, the people of the movement wanted to focus on love rather than sex. They called this movement the Homophile movement, using the word homophile with the same prefix, but changing the root of the word to phile, or love, meaning same love. However, the word homosexual was still used during this time and throughout the late 1960s until the emergence of the gay liberation movement. It's worth noting that the word gay didn't always mean homosexuality. It originally meant joyful and carefree, dating back to the 12th century. It wasn't until 1938 where the word gay started to mean homosexuality, first seen in the movie Bringing Up Baby. In the film, Cary Grant's character's clothes have been sent to the cleaner, and by default is forced to wear a woman's robe with feather trim. When another character asks about the robe, he says, "It's just because I went gay all of a sudden." The use of the word here is in reference to the character's cross-dressing, which was often seen as a trait of homosexuality at the time. In the 1960s, two branches of LGBTQ advocacy began to emerge. The first, assimilationist, believed it was better for LGBTQ people to assimilate into the heteronormative culture and be seen as normal. However, a second method began to emerge, a more radical notion of gay liberation for those who wanted to be seen separate and not a part of the normal social order. Later, during the AIDS epidemic of the 1980s, these more radical groups began to reclaim the word queer as a way to provoke the more traditional and conservative groups. A few years later, in March of 1990, an organization is formed called Queer Nation. This group was formed in an effort to address the anti-gay violence that was happening in the streets. A common protest chant heard at this time from this group was, "We're here, we're queer, we will not live in fear." And this is still used today. Queer Nation explained the reclaiming of the word in a pamphlet that they titled "Queers Read This," that they handed out during Pride in 1990. The pamphlet read, "Well, yes, gay is great. It has its place. But when a lot of lesbians and gay men wake up in the morning, we feel angry and disgusted, not gay. So we've chosen to call ourselves queer. Using queer is a way of reminding us how we are perceived by the rest of the world. It's a way of telling ourselves we don't have to be witty and charming people who keep our lives discreet and marginalized in the straight world." Today, queer is used as a spectrum to describe a broad range of non-heteronormative gender and sexual identities. There are now academic disciplines like queer studies and queer theory. However, reclaiming of the word queer has not gone without some controversy. Some believe that the association of radicalism leads to a more divided community, while others believe that the word is offensive and self-deprecating. Despite your own feelings about the word, remember that everybody has the right to identify in their own way. The word queer as an identity and also as a community has a deep, complicated history. Like people, language is ever evolving, and we will continue to grow and change with the language that makes us feel most represented. Thank you all for joining me today for our first episode of Queer History with Christopher Street Tours. Be sure to subscribe below and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Christopher Street Tours for more queer history. Until next time. Christopher Street Tours is an LGBTQ-owned organization. Our mission is to make LGBTQ history accessible and engaging, sharing stories and uplifting voices from those who paved the way before us. For more information and resources, please visit ChristopherStreetTours.com.